And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Murata, host of the program, and happy to be with you. Happy Wednesday. It has been just absolutely beautiful here in the Northeast. Vito, I don't think it's rained here in 2 weeks. It's been 70s and warm, cool at night. It's been awesome. So kudos to a beautiful fall here in the Northeast. We are going to meet my paisan from Northeast Pennsylvania, Vito Quaglia. Vito is a coach. Vito is a principal. Vito is an enthused person with a lot going in his life, an amazing family. The guy's writing a movie script. He's got a podcast. We're going to talk Sinatra. We're going to talk Bruce Springsteen. We're going to talk a little baseball, Vito. We're going to talk a little Phillies baseball. So we will meet Vito in just a few minutes. If you are watching the show live, certainly jump in and say hello. We are a proud member of the Education Podcast Network, Voice Ed Radio Canada, wherever you're taking in your podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Leave us a positive review, leave us a comment, and we appreciate your support. A quick word from our sponsor, IXL. If you're an educator, I'm sure you've heard of IXL. If you haven't, their link is in the show notes, and here is a word from IXL. Hey friends, Andrew Murata here, Surviving and Thriving. And I want to thank today's sponsor for the podcast, IXL. Discover the power of data-driven instruction in your school with IXL. It is the most widely used online learning and teaching platform K through 12. It gives you everything you need to maximize learning, from a comprehensive curriculum to meaningful school-wide data. And IXL's diagnostic is research proven to be a strong predictor of performance on standardized assessments, including NWEA, MAPS, STAR, iLearn, just to name a few. And the best part, everything I just mentioned is all integrated into one platform, so you can simplify your EdTech tools. Visit IXL.com to lead your school towards data-driven excellence today. The link is in the show notes. And again, I want to thank IXL for sponsoring Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Let's get started with today's podcast. Again, we're going to meet Vito Quaglia from Northeast Pennsylvania in just a moment. The opening concept is entrances and exits. I just listened to Michael Richards, also famously known as Kramer from Seinfeld. I listened to his memoir, and that was the name of the book, Entrances and Exits. And there are so many of them over the course of our lives. He goes into his stories of being in the Army, school, certainly trying out for Seinfeld and the end of Seinfeld and his comedy. But really, it just got me reflecting on all the entrances and exits that I've been in my life, my leadership, my impact on others, my legacy as we exit places, and how are we remembered? What is the impact we've had? So as you continue on your journey, think about the entrances and exits in your life. How are you impacting somewhere where you might be entering? And how about when you leave? Are you going to be missed? Is the work you're going to be doing be able to be carried on? Or are they going to be saying, thank God he or she is gone, and keep moving? There's a lot of entrances and exits in our life, and it's important that we do a good job along the way. Speaking of doing a good job, let's welcome in today's guest, my friend Vito Quaglia from Northeast PA. Vito, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Andrew. I couldn't wait to be here. And the fact that you threw that Mets hat up there, I don't know how I feel. I might leave, but I'll stick around for a little bit.
Well, I mean, you're the one flaunting around the Phillies and all that. I know it's playoff time coming. And so I was going to break this out. But if we want to get into it right now, Vito, I mean, you know, I don't know if you have your Phillies hat close by here.
I don't. Unfortunately, I don't. And I feel sorry for you, and I feel sorry for your audience that they have to be held hostage by such a delusional person. But we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that. Two paisans here and living in Northeast PA. This is Vito Quaglia, principal, school leader, dad, doing a lot of things. Vito, how are you today?
Oh, doing great. Actually, like you said, the weather's been awesome. It's really the fall is the best time in Northeast PA. If anybody disputes that, I'd like to fight you outside. But it's gorgeous. The start of the school year is always my favorite time as well. Football rolling and stuff. So it's just been awesome.
Vito, what'd you think of the opening concept, that entrances and exits? What were your thoughts there?
Well, absolutely, especially when you tie Michael Richards to it, the fact that all those Kramer entrances when he just flings that door open and you never know what's going to happen. But yeah, there's so many different things, and everything we do, on our journeys, it's all transitions, right? It's somebody, every day, whether it's kids coming to school on arrival or when you have kids transferring into school, leaving school, applying to college and things. So much of what we do in our careers is that has that concept behind it. So I like that idea, and that's something I'm definitely gonna have to pick up and take a listen to myself.
Yeah, and when you've been around as long as you have in education, you've had a number of them doing different things, different schools, different levels. And along those lines, Vito, again, you're the principal now, not at Riverdale. I was in Riverdale this weekend, but Riverside High School in Taylor, PA. You've been there for several years, but you've had a lot of different leadership positions, Vito.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what are some of the 2 or 3 things that come to mind in terms of the skills that you would need in that leadership. Some of the things that you've developed over the years, top 3 things you would say that you've learned in terms of skills that you need for the position.
Well, and again, you're right. This is my 32nd year in education. 25 of them, I've been a leader, educational leader, an administrator, all through K through 12. And over as a career like that, you're going to make your mistakes. You're going to learn along the way. I would definitely think the younger version of Vito would have been probably less patient, probably a lot quicker to try to get my point across. I think now it's listening. It's everybody has a story to tell. When you listen to either students, staff, community members, it's key to being that active listener and also sharing communication of expectations. Everyone wants to know what is expected of them, whether it's a student, your staff, even the people that you meet on the street. When you have those conversations, that's all they're looking for is, what do I need to do to be successful? What do I need to do to be successful in this conversation, in this school year, whatever it is. So I think establishing those expectations that you're in charge of, that you're going to hold the people accountable for, listening when you have those conversations, and making sure that, like as my grandmother would have said, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. We're supposed to listen twice as much as we talk, right? So I think I've learned that along the way to be a much better listener. But also the fact that, and this is something I talk about on my podcast, I firmly believe that all success is based on relationships. And the more committed you are to your relationship, the more successful you're going to be. And that could be your relationship, with your career, your relationship with your spouse, your life partner, your relationship, with your health and how much you go to the gym, whatever it is. But the more committed you are, the more successful you're going to be.
Yeah, great answer there, Vito. Speaking of relationships, my mom is watching Vito, so I'm going to give my mom a shout out. She's a big Yankee fan, Vito. So, there's all kinds of problems going on today.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to fend off all these New Yorkers. I don't know what I'm going to do.
with a name like Vito Quaglia, I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think so. I'm half Irish and half Italian, so you got to watch out.
We're all mixed in there somewhere, Vito.
Yeah. Yep.
Vito, I've been doing it a long time. Again, learned a lot. Someone told me once, Andrew, don't teach for 30 years. Don't be an educator for 30 years. You do it this year, and you make every year different. How do you continue to grow and learn and make those years unique and different?
I would say basically I read, I try to read a whole lot. I try to read whether it's, novels or, journals, trying to keep up to date on things. Honestly, at this point, the last few years, it's really staying in touch and listening to our students. I mean, especially on the digital end of things, our kids understand this, digital world more than we do. They're the digital natives, and just, we're really expanding our mass media curriculum now, and just having those kids basically teach us, what's working out there and things like that. So I think trying to stay fresh and relevant, you have to stay up with the journals and the jargon and all that kind of edu-speak stuff, but really making sure that we're meeting our students where they are. So you always have to understand what their needs are, and they're changing. And And as we get into this conversation, I have some pretty radical ideas about where education should go. So I don't know. I hope you have a 10-second delay on this bad boy.
Hey man, listen, change can be good, and there's certain traditions that should stay, and there's some that should go. My wife, speaking of staying current with students, someone brought a student to her the other day as a guidance counselor and said, he used the word slay. He's going to hurt somebody. And my wife was like, no, that's something good. That's like a compliment that he slayed it. And the person didn't know what they were talking about. So absolutely, I agree with you there. Vito, how about right now? It's the end of September. We're the middle of September. We've been in school, 3-4 weeks here in the Northeast. What are you focusing on right now? What's a goal that you have as principal this year of Riverside?
One of the things, well, there's really two major ones. Getting to because we're a 7 through 12 building, so really, helping our new students, whether it's our 7th graders, coming to our building, from the elementary, helping them feel acclimated and part of the family culture that we have going there at Riverside. But also, taking a look at our new students that might have transferred in, come this over the summer, even now, as we get kids coming in registering even now. So making sure that our newer students feel acclimated, and then also on the other side of that coin, making sure that our seniors have everything they need to do so that they're best prepared, going out, whether it's the graduation pathway or, building more and more, co-op experiences, intern experiences, so our kids get, that real world experience before they, get to June.
Vito, as principals, we want the best for our kids. We're constantly giving to our kids, and we want to see them be successful. But I had a chance to talk to you off air and read a little your own personal children. My God, you have one that's working in law, finished law school. You have another in law school, and you have a third in a pre-med program at Villanova University. Like, wow, shout out to the Augustinians. As you look at your own children, I mean, give us some tips here. How did you get those kids in such great spots? How'd you help make that happen?
Well, listen to your wife. Listen to my wife. Thank the Lord that they take after their mom. But I mean, honestly, the only thing that we did, I think that we were very consistent with, was being involved and being supportive. And there was two things that we always tried to talk to them about. Number one was really be kind. And number two was work your tail off, and we always, Joanne and I will sit there and talk and really be super proud of the accomplishments the kids have made over the years. But ultimately, we're most proud of the fact that they're good human beings. They're kind-hearted. They look out for, family members and, their friends, and, and they're involved in a lot of programs where they give back, and that's more important. So it's terrific that they have the academic success and they're doing well, moving into their careers. But our goal always as parents was, hopefully they would be, good people, and that's where we're most proud right now, actually.
And they're older, Vito, and they've moved on. What were some things that you did when they were in grade school, when they were in middle school and high school? Some strategies in the evening when they come home, like you had mentioned about the technology. I'm looking for my phone. The kids are on the phone. They're watching TV. They're playing video games. What were some things that you did to get them dialed into their academics and their school?
Well, I would be a terrible student, I guess, today, by definition, where back in my day of being in school, I was very easily distracted, and I'd have the radio going to be listening to this and paying attention to this while I was supposed to be studying. So I was never one to really hound them about their study habits, as long as they were getting the results that they wanted. So we were supportive, but yet each one of them are individuals in their own right. But one thing that I made, I guess, mistakes, but we learned along the way. And the oldest, you always kind of do things with the oldest, and then you figure it out with the other two. But fortunately or unfortunately, I was my daughter's softball coach, or Dominique, our oldest. And, there were some things where you had to be the coach and not the dad, that led to maybe some quiet dinners, when mom might have thought you should have done this. But the coach and you said, well, I have to do that. So that was a fun experience. I wouldn't change that for the world, but there were some tense things there. But overall, I just think trying to be as supportive as you can, and again, with them, meeting them where they were and really listening to them when they had different concerns, whether it was academics or, the social circle, that's a roller coaster, and always trying to just be again, listening, being a sounding board, helping them make their decisions rather than telling them, hey, do this, do that, which is very hard for me, kind of a control freak. But trying to step back a little bit and you have to watch them make mistakes, unfortunately, and then they learn from those mistakes. So it's fun, but maddening at times being a parent, right? I mean, it's different.
Yeah. You say, hey, don't do that because this is going to happen. Then they go do that, and then that happens, and you're like, did I not just tell you that?
Well, yep. And if you say something and then another person, whether it's a coach or a teacher, says the same thing, they listen, they heard it. They'll be like, oh, Dad, did you hear what this guy? I'm like, oh, no, I didn't just say that like an hour ago, but that's whatever works. Yep.
Vito, you're a very passionate man. Your education, your family, your Italian heritage, but you're also a big sports fan. We joked about the Phillies, Notre Dame. Tell me about coaching and sports and what it's meant to you in your life over the course of your journey.
Well, I coached. I didn't play football in college, but I started coaching right when I was a freshman in college. So I started coaching at a very young age. And so when I went into teaching, the teaching and coaching kind of went hand in hand. So it was always part of who I was. And then ultimately, my dad, who passed away when I was in my 20s, he was a crazed sports fan. Loved the Giants, loved Notre Dame, loved the Phillies. So I think I got my passion for being a fan and a fanatic, from my dad. But I always loved the coaching part of it. To me, being a teacher and being a coach, and now being an administrator, you have such a privilege when you're a coach. I mean, you get to spend time with these young athletes more than their teachers do, more than their parents do sometimes, especially, when kids get older, they're spending probably more time than they are with their family. So I always knew that was a place where you can have impact on people, and I always liked that idea of that progress. You could see them at the beginning of the season or the off season, you work together, and then you see the end result. So again, that's something in education that we get to do that other people don't. A lot of times if you're working in a cubicle somewhere, you don't see that progress, and you don't get to see the kind of the fruit of the labor, and a lot of times, with coaching, I always thought that the journey was more fun than the actual games at times, the practice schedule and seeing the guys go through the grind, or the girls with softball. And that's a little thing about coaching. Coaching girls is different than coaching guys. I mean, I had an old timer once tell me, whatever you were going to do when you coach a young man, do the opposite when you're coaching a young lady. But I will say this, the girls that I coached took to strategy quicker than the guys. I think sometimes guys like to muscle out and do things that way, where girls listen and you tell them once and they get it. Where sometimes with guys, they're like stonata. You have to tell them 3-4 times before I understand what they're saying. But it's always been a part of me, and it's made me crazy. And I'm pretending that you didn't put the Mets hat on, so I'm there. Listen, I don't know if you're checking the standings. I wish I had a newspaper here, but I know who has the best record in baseball. I don't know if you do, but
I love it. And how about Notre Dame? Why Notre Dame? That was a tough last week. It was tough to watch. I don't know if Notre Dame reached out to you to help pay the $1.4 million. I don't know if there was any donations there, but how'd you get roped in with Notre Dame?
Same thing. My dad and my uncle, actually my mom's brother, I remember being a little guy and, being around the house during football season and just listening to them, just really getting fired up when things were going good or bad. So it was just always, and I don't think it had anything to do with even though, we had gone to Catholic school and all that, I guess it kind of goes hand in hand. And I am half Irish, but again, it was just something handed down from Vito Quaglia, the father, the old man who, I tell you what, for a guy who, worked in the garment industry, worked in the dress factory, and I'm always in awe of the people that came before us, because they would work these manual labor jobs, these physical jobs, and still have time to garden, to coach sports, to join volunteer fire companies, to be in the, and I come home from what we do and I'm exhausted, so and I was, first in my family to go to college. So again, I think like you echoing back to our kids and what we do, I think a lot of the seeds of what it takes to be successful was planted by, those previous generations.
Yeah, shout out to your dad. I know you shared you lost him on Christmas Day. Yeah, that had to be hard there. So, but enjoyed hearing about the lessons from your dad.
Yep.
Another thing you're passionate about, you started it here recently. You are a podcast host, a matter of principle. Congratulations on your podcast. That information is in the show notes. Certainly check it out. What made you want to start a podcast, and how has it been for you starting out?
Well, I mean, for good or for bad, my friend, it was you. So I had this idea of doing something. I bounced an idea around off a couple people. I talked to John Bell, who said, who you should talk to. And lo and behold, I gave you a call, texted back and forth. And your advice to me was just do it. Because I was in limbo. I was researching all these different platforms and how to do this and how to do that. And you're like, buddy, just do it and figure it out as you go. And that was the best advice I got from anyone, because I just did it. And I try to get better every show. But ultimately it was being an old guy. So I met all these people along my journey, and I knew they had stories to tell. And I figured, hey, where's there a platform where I can just have them celebrate what they've done along the way? Maybe, inspire some other people too. And, podcasts seem like the best way to do it. So thank you. So if I am successful with it, and I'm not saying I am, but if I am, kudos to you for kind of pushing me in the right direction.
Yeah, and it's great. The interviews are great, the stories, your graphics, Vito, the graphics, the design of it, really cool. And you're also hitting the mark with consistency. You've been doing it each week. You have a variety of guests, so certainly check it out. You can find them on all podcasts there, A Matter of Principle, and certainly at vitoquaglia.com also. Very cool, and congratulations. What's something you learned from doing the podcast here for now? You've had it maybe 4 or 5 months going?
Yeah, I think we have about 20, 25 episodes out there, been going since June. And the thing that I've learned a lot. I mean, as you talk to people, you learn so much. But one thing that just about every single person who I spoke to all shared the idea that no one really has a linear journey to success. The idea that we on a daily basis, the things we do, and we have our curriculum and our lesson plans and our schedule and all this stuff, this routine. And then I talk to people over and over again, and they talk about how they changed majors, or they started here and they didn't like it, so they turned left and they went here, so that idea that we prepare all these youngsters, and then there's going to be gold at the end of the rainbow. There's going to be twists and turns along the way. And I think the best thing that we can do in education is help these kids learn how to keep learning. I mean, it's great to have that skill set and have those tools in the toolbox. But if people who I'm talking to are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, if they had twists and turns in their careers to get to where they're at today, these kids graduating in 2025 are going to have even more. Right. So that's the one thing where I honestly, about 20 people that I've talked to so far, every one of them had all different kind of things that happened to them along the way to where they're at today, which is, to me, was very surprising.
Yeah. And when you, as the interviewer, get to ask the question, and then you hear it, like even now, when I was asking about your kids, you gave the magic recipe right there. Be kind and work your tail off. It's funny when they say something on the podcast that it kind of like everything else slows down, the lights go down, and you spotlight on what they're saying. Because like you said, they have a story to tell. So again, that podcast is called A Matter of Principle. Reach out to Vito if you'd like to be a guest, and you're doing good things there, Vito. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Another thing, again, we have in common, and I was thrilled to hear you talk about it. I love going to energizing events. I love being around positive energy. Bruce Springsteen and going to Bruce's concerts has been something that's been passionate of yours, and you've been to a number of them. What is it about a Bruce Springsteen concert and the music in general that got your attention?
Well, and I'm sure there's people that love Bruce. There's the spring nuts, and I'm sure there's detractors that think he's false and phony, whatnot. But we're not going to talk about those folks tonight. I just think, number one, he never forgot where he came from. So he's always telling the story of the American dream, the common man struggling against odds, and that idea that anyone can do it. So if some skinny kid from Jersey could work really hard and be probably one of the biggest stars on the planet. Anybody can do it. That that American dream is there too. But the idea that he understands people and he, if you ever go to a show, and if you haven't been to a show, you should. It's almost a religious experience where he takes that crowd somewhere every night, and he reads and feeds off the crowd. He kind of knows when to slow things down, when to speed things up. I mean, you go to a show and there's 40, 50, 60,000 people in the palm of his hands. He's a magician. He's a shaman up there, really. Big Jim Morrison fan. So he's up there just kind of moving the crowd. But very much like a Frank Sinatra, he's playing, and he said it in several interviews, for that guy maybe in the nosebleeds who had to use a couple paychecks to take him and his buddy to this show, and maybe it's the only show he'll ever go to. He's making sure that guy is entertained. Not so much maybe the 100 people that get the front row seats all the time, but they're truly there because they appreciate and they know what people do when they shell out that money and what they sacrifice for themselves. So, I mean, he might be out of touch on some things, maybe because he's a billionaire and all that, but I truly think his messages in his stories and the way he moves a crowd is tremendous. Plus, he's a storyteller, and if you bring up storytelling again from my podcast, I had somebody bring something up that I thought was really powerful, and I want to revisit it. So think about the show storytelling. We're going to get back to that.
Yeah, no, take it right now. Go with it. You're on stories now. Run with it.
Well, it was a young man who I talked to, and he played football in high school and college, and we're going in that direction. But he's in the business world now. One of the things he talked about was that he went out and found a career coach, job coach kind of thing, and this person helped him learn how to tell a story because the coach, rightly so, said if you want something to stick in, an idea to stick in someone's mind and them to leave with it after your business meeting, you have to attach it to a story. So you have to be able to craft a narrative, and you have to be a good storyteller. So for me, a former English teacher, to hear a finance guy understand the power of storytelling and how he incorporated that into what he does on a daily basis, I was like, I probably always knew that, but when you hear somebody that uses it in a real world application, that was something that I want to bring back. And when I visit with our students in English classes, things talk like that. And there was another fellow from a podcast who teaches communications at a local college, and he does public speaking, which is something that's difficult, sometimes to pull teeth to get kids to want to be a public speaker. And one thing he does at the college level, which I thought was outstanding, is he said, look, not everybody here probably thinks they're going to ever speak in public, but I guarantee everyone in here has loved ones. And unfortunately, loved ones are going to pass away. And you might be presented with a situation where you're going to be at a service and someone is going to ask someone to speak on behalf, give some respect, pay respect to their loved one. Wouldn't it be nice for you to be able to have that ability to give that gift of speaking kind words about someone that you lost? So the idea of giving a eulogy was his way in to getting kids to understand and to want to be a public speaker, which I thought was brilliant, because not everybody wants to be a politician or a lawyer or a public speaker, but everyone, unfortunately, is going to have someone in their life that probably will pass away at some time. And if you want to be in that situation to speak, you're going to want to speak the right way, right? Eloquently and positively. So I thought that was a great way in, for him. So again, I'm learning all these things on the podcast. So I wish I'd thought of this years ago. Probably would have been a better administrator.
Yeah, well, and we learn on the journey, and add it to your routine. And Bruce's book, we talked off air, Born to Run, is an amazing story of his journey, and again, not getting the gigs and failing at the music till eventually where he did make it. Great stories. Awesome stuff, man. I really enjoy it. Vito, with your name like yours, I mean, if you're gonna make a name up for a movie, Vito Quaglia, I love it. Are you a chef? Are you into the Italian food and music and all of that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, Andrew Minky, I'm 300 pounds. Like I like to eat, but I do enjoy cooking. My wife is a tremendous cook. Her whole family, my grandma, had the best spaghetti sauce in the world. And for a time, my wife and I actually had a little pizza place for a couple of years. So I mean, she did the majority of the cooking, but I did some stuff here and there. But yeah. And one of I actually have a great tripe recipe. I don't know if you're into tripe for tripa, but that actually came from my brother-in-law's family. But it's I can share it to you off air. Anybody who ever made tripe, when you cook it in the house, sometimes it has a not a very pleasant smell as it's boiling. But he found a way to take some of that stink away when you're cooking the tripe. So, but no, yeah, definitely. We enjoy our Italian food in the Quaglia household.
Yeah. When I lived that year in Italy, they would make that, and I was like, "What the heck?" And
Oh, yeah.
it was pretty good though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Incredible. Vito, what's something that you wanted to talk about that we haven't talked about yet? This has been a lot of fun. I feel like I could talk to you all day long.
I mean, just really that idea of, I think, as we speak in 2024, kindness and just the ability to communicate and to dialogue and even debate and have disagreements, but to do it without retreating into tribalism and screaming and yelling. I think it's something that we all, regardless if you're in education or not, it's something that we all really should communicate to one another. And again, take a beat when you're talking with people and be empathetic, understand where they're coming from. I just think it's needed. I think there's been a lack of that, like really civility in communication. And, that's kind of like you sit there in school and you're trying to deal with, kids that might be having different disagreements, but then you realize they have a hard time talking because everything's texting and everything's keyboards. So they don't really know how to verbally communicate sometimes. And then unfortunately you turn on the news and you hear all these people yelling and screaming at each other as well. So I think, when we have these platforms, sharing positive energy, sharing the availability to communicate the right way and to be empathetic and understanding of each other's causes and places. I think I'll talk about that anytime I can.
Yeah. And we get to model it as school leaders. We get to demonstrate it, certainly when we speak, but acting out because it's authentic, it's real, and I love that concept.
Yep, I agree.
Vito, you heard IXL is the sponsor, and I know as a school leader, you've had experience with it. Can you just share a little bit about your experience using IXL in school, and how did it work for you and your teaching staff with the IXL program?
Well, my experience working with it, I was a building principal at Dingman Delaware Elementary in Delaware Valley School District, and it was during COVID when there was so much learning loss and so many different things going on, and it really was a great tool for our teachers to really be able to individualize and differentiate and really hone in on individual learning paths. And also that was great for us because it all dovetailed into the curriculum we had because it was connected right to the text we were using at the time. So it was something that you could easily, the ease of sometimes all the metrics and statistics can get overwhelming, but the way they kind of map things out, it's really user friendly. And the kids benefited from it naturally, but and I've been around a long time, and sometimes something that seems okay when the salesman talks to you, or even when you play around with it as a principal, doesn't really hold water when the teachers use it. But IXL was a product that the teachers really felt they were comfortable using it, and they saw results from it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That differentiation, this kid over there could be advancing so much, but this kid over here, and it gears towards the kids. So very cool. I'm glad you had a good experience with it.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for a few words, Vito. My mindset, my mantra, my kind of theme is surviving and thriving. And I want you to pause. You're an English teacher. We're going to take the word "and" out. And how about you in your life? What strategy, what behavior, what action, what word are you putting in there to not just survive, but thrive as a dad, as a husband, as a school leader, and more?
I would say surviving while thriving. You're doing both. You're getting to those goals. You're making ends meet, but you're still, you're meeting every day, and you're sucking the life out of carpe diem. So you're surviving while thriving.
Yeah, I love that, and you've done a few things right there. Looking how your kids turned out, certainly, and where they're landing. Very cool. This is Vito Quaglia, friends. If you're watching the show live, jump in and say hello. Jump in and leave Vito a comment. Vito, what's next for you? You've had a lifetime. You've been doing this a long time. What do you see yourself as the next step?
Well, I love what I'm doing, and I love where I'm at right now. I mean, our Riverside is a small district. Our high school, 7 through 12, only about 700 kids, only about 100 kids a class, which is really advantageous to getting to know the students and their families. You know what I mean? I've been in big school districts, I've been in small school districts, but when you have that, you have that availability to really get to know people. So I'm in no hurry to leave, but as you know, all things do come to an end. So eventually down the road, when retirement does come my way, I want to be able to use, these experiences, the tools, the skills that I've learned in education to help, whether it's at a community development kind of program or just being in and out. You get to the point where so many people, right? I've had a plethora of great relationships along the way. Great group of mentors that I could pick up the phone right now and ask for advice or go to. And so I just want to continue that in some capacity where, helping others become mentors, helping, maybe new people in different career paths, like out of job coaching kind of stuff, but just giving back, because I've had a tremendously successful career that I've loved. I've never really felt like I was ever working. You stress out over some of the decisions you make and some of the things you have to go through, but it's always been fun. And to help others to get to that point, I guess that's probably the direction I'd go.
I love it. When it's all said and done, right? What's the impact that we can have on other people, our students, our staff, our community? So whatever that step is, Vito, I wish you the best of luck. And certainly that message of kindness resonated with me today. So I appreciated that.
Thanks, buddy.
Vito, it's the bottom of the ninth. Mets, Phillies. We got a few more questions here. It's playoff time. Oh, my God. My sister's watching, too. Vito, she's a huge Yankee fan for sure. Vito, let's get to rapid fire. Let's see if you could get the bat on the ball. Maybe the Phillies could put up a couple runs here tonight. Rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Here we go. Last book you read.
A book called How You Wear Your Hat, a biography about Frank Sinatra.
Oh, nice. He did it his way. Last movie you saw?
Saw Twisters in the drive-in.
Oh, nice. How was the weather?
The weather was good. There was no twisters coming. It was fun. That's Americana at its best.
Yeah, certainly in the warm summer nights in the Northeast here. Last concert you went to?
Just saw Bruce in Philly in August.
Wow, he's still going. He's still playing, huh?
Oh, yeah, baby. Better than ever.
Did you go to the thing on Broadway? Did you go to that thing?
No, I didn't. There was a couple times I knew some people that were going and things didn't work out, but I did not get to see that.
Your favorite dish?
My wife's meatball, any kind of pasta, but her sauce and her homemade meatballs, the best.
The best. Where's your pizza spot in Northeast Pennsylvania?
We like, there's a couple by us. So we're like Old Forge is by probably half a mile from our house, and Old Forge has probably 15 places. But there's a Colarusso's right by our house is a tremendous place. Colarusso's Pizza.
Old Forge is under the radar for pizza. You're not from the area.
Old Forge is the pizza capital of the world, and we happen to live in Duryea, which is between Pittston and Old Forge. Pittston touts itself as the tomato capital of the world. So there's some good stuff happening up here in NEPA.
Well, with my mom and my sister watching, maybe they'll come up and visit here. Your favorite place to travel?
The Outer Banks, North Carolina. Love it down there.
Yeah, beautiful area. Northeast Pennsylvania is fill in the blank.
Home. It's home.
If you weren't in education, what would you be in?
I would probably old school radio disc jockey. On the radio, spinning vinyl.
You do got a great accent, that's for sure. What's a pet peeve of yours? We talked a lot of your passions. What's a pet peeve of yours?
Mean people that are just mean-spirited. Don't have time for them.
Yeah, keep it moving. A recent victory?
Physically, just got my two knees replaced, so I'm trying to be a little bit more health conscious and be a little bit more mobile. So that's a victory physically for me.
Yeah, same time, Vito?
No, a year apart.
Okay.
Yeah, a year apart. But the second one went downhill pretty quick, so we did them both.
Yeah, keep walking and keep moving. At 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, I fill in the blank.
Oh, like making a big breakfast.
Nice. One thing you're curious about.
Really curious about spirituality, and not just
tell me more about that.
Well, just the fact that when you're in a public school, there's that separation of church and state, so you can't really go into that on your day job. But for a guy who went to Catholic school 12 years, and then you go to college and you're exposed to all these different kind of philosophies and religions from around the world and all these different things. Really curious, on the idea that, number one, all these religions seem like they start a lot of wars, but yet people that are spiritual seem like they're not really connected to all these religions, and maybe they're a little bit more grounded in some other stuff. So definitely interesting. I like to read about a whole bunch of different philosophies and different spirituality takes, from around the globe. That piques my interest.
Beautiful, beautiful answer there. What's your favorite part of the school day, Vito?
Oh, the arrival in the morning. It's fresh and new, and you never know what's going to happen. Love the mornings.
Yeah, kids coming in, ready to start the day. Friends, this is Vito Quaglia, Northeast Pennsylvania, school leader, podcast host. Last question, Vito. You're also writing a movie script. Did I get that right? Is it manuscript or movie script?
No, I am trying to get a script going. Had a couple 2-3 drafts, and I'm working on some stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to get it there. I'm trying to tie in some local things that actually happen with some fictional things. So there's a lot of history in Northeast PA, good and bad, and I'm trying to capitalize on what happened here in the past, but also put my own spin on it.
He's a self-proclaimed Northeast Pennsylvania history nerd there, so I love it.
Absolutely.
You combine it with sports and Italian, it's all coming together.
Yes. One big pot of crazy stew I am, my friend.
That might be the name of the movie there.
There you go.
Vito, again, the podcast, where can people find you? We mentioned the website before, www.vitoquaglia.com. How about your social media handles and the best way for people to be in touch?
Well, you can get me at, my email is vito.quaglia@comcast.net is the easiest way for emails. But hashtag a matter of principle or a matter of principle on Instagram and Facebook are both pages there as well. So any of those ways, and also on Twitter, Vito Quaglia on X, I guess, not Twitter anymore. But that's there as well. You could find me in all those spots. And the podcast is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Any place you can find it.
Anywhere you can find it, he's out there. Great job, Vito. This was a lot of fun.
I absolutely loved it
to have you on. How about a quote to bring us home?
Oh, this is a good one. This will hopefully my kids will appreciate this. Be curious, not judgmental.
Amen to that. Vito Quaglia, friends, great job, Vito. I really enjoyed it, and I wish you the best, not only in the podcast, but certainly your continued journey as a principal, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. My pleasure, my privilege. I really loved it, Andrew. Thank you.
I might have to meet you up at Colarusso's for a slice.
Absolutely. It's a cut. Up here, it's cuts of pizza, and it's a tray. See, up here with the old Ford style, it's rectangular. It's a tray of pizza, and you eat cuts. It's not a pie, and there's not slices. I'll school you. I'll teach you.
Let's do it. Let's book it. I appreciate it. Vito Quaglia, my friends, have a great night. Continue to, as Vito said, go out there and be kind and continue to survive and thrive on your own journey. Vito, thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You stay on the line. Take care, friends. Keep rolling.